Hey everybody, Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we're talking with Danny from Poolside at the Flamingo. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me.
We're here today to talk about you, the band, your music, and kind of just what you guys do in the world. But for those who are new, can you give a little intro about yourself?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, we're a band that's been around, gosh, as Poolside the Flamingo since 2005, toured a lot in the MySpace days,
Mhm.
and still retain some of that style in our music. We are like a deathcore, grindcore band. We've had a sort of a resurgence lately with a new EP, two new EPs, but one this year. We just got back from a little run of shows and we got a couple more scheduled. So, um, yeah, before Poolside at the Flamingo, we were a band called Out for Blood. Um, Me and I have a twin brother who's our singer. I play guitar. He couldn't join us today, but we don't look alike. We're fraternal twins. You wouldn't even think we're brothers. And we've been with the same drummer ever since the beginning too. We've had a couple different bass players over the life of the band.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
My
but
first
yeah,
question is the name, like Poolside of the Flamingo. I'm sure it's probably just the casual thing that just, oh, let's do this, but it's an interesting one for sure.
it sort of was, and we get this question a lot. So as I said, we were called Out for Blood. Uh at the time there were, I don't know, two or three other bands in the world called Out for Blood when we were doing it. So there was that to worry about. We had done a couple tours and we were like, you know what? Let's just change the name. Our current bass player was leaving at the time and we didn't want to be confused with other bands. And so we started brainstorming just your typical death metal, deathcore names,
Hmm.
trying to be sort of creative, but sure enough, it's like every time we thought of something, there'd be one, two other bands, same name.
Yeah.
And I'm like five names that we went through. And so I think in frustration, we were just sitting at practice once and we just looked at, I think it was our bass player at the time, our new one. We're like, first name that pops into your head or first thing. And he just said Poolside at the Flamingo. And we were like, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
We like thought about it for a few days. And the reason he brought it up is because we all were sort of not obsessed, but just we really liked the Hunter S. Thompson movie, based on his book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas at the time. And we're like, after a day, we're like, let's just do it. Fuck it. Like
Yeah.
let's just name it that. This was during a time when you had a lot of funky band names. See You Next Tuesday. I Wrestled a Bear once. Super Happy Story Time Land. A lot of these brutal bands that were choosing these types of weird names. So we just went with it. It's different. We've stuck with it ever since. And now even these days, we've I've had it in the back of my head, like, I wonder, is this name really helping us? But it's too late now.
Yeah,
That's
you're
the
built
name.
in now. Yeah.
Yep.
When I first saw the name in my email, I kind of went, okay, this sounds like an interesting name. And I pictured almost like some jazz kind of like club little scene thing. And then as soon as I hit play on the first song, I went, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's memorable. So especially when paired with the type of music that we play. So I don't regret it in that fashion. We play with so many bands that I try to remember their names because it was like Within the Ruins or
Yeah.
We As We Rise or something. And I'm like, I don't fucking remember the name of that band we just played with.
Yeah. There's some, it's almost like just generic names that people pull out sometimes. And
Yeah.
yours sticks out for sure.
Yeah. So I think it's helped us in that fashion. But yeah, and we kept the humor going back in the day. A lot of our song titles are ridiculous, and some of the songs and lyrics themselves are pretty ridiculous. Our new EP we released is more on a serious note, but the name's still there, and we have fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have fun with what you're doing for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think makes you guys unique as a band?
I would say I think the style is fairly unique. It's got a nice blend of deathcore and grindcore, so you get a lot of these breakdowns that come with deathcore, but then we have a very fast drummer, so we do a lot of blast beats, a lot of gravity blasts, a lot of thrash. and it just goes right in. And I think it's a unique blend, at least where I'm not hearing it in other bands. You definitely hear breakdowns and blast beats with other bands, but I don't think they're sort of combined in such a way in the way that we do it. And so um I think that leaves us unique. Also, we show up at places and we're easy to get along with and super friendly, and you can come talk to us. And so that's always a good thing too. But yeah, I guess I'd say it's a unique style of in the genre that we're in.
Yeah, I think that's one of the nice things about your genre too, is the community is always so welcoming and open, it seems like so I'm based in like Ottawa in Canada,
Mhm.
and the hardcore scene here is they're like the friendliest people you'll ever meet, really.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always fun. And then you get the hip hop crowd is like you're worried about fights every 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. Yeah, everyone looks out for each other,
Hmm.
and it's a good time. I mean, people can certainly online get defensive about genre labeling. I that's why I hesitate to give us any kind of labels. A lot of our promo materials will go out saying deathcore question mark, grindcore question mark. You decide,
Hmm.
and you'll get just people commenting that there's not even a hint of grindcore in that. Then there'll be people like this is grindcore, and it's just like whatever. Let the people decide. We just play what we want to play.
Yeah, and you have fun with it. Like I wouldn't be able to pick out nuances of some of these things to say one genre over another.
Yeah,
If it's good music, it's good music, really.
yeah, yeah. I agree. So
You guys have a recent single that came out. What did I write down here? Acabadara.
yeah, so that's the Acabador is the name of it was a single that released, but it's also the title track on a 4-song EP that just dropped last week. Uh, so there's 4 songs on that.
Okay.
Um, the last one, we dropped one song at a time. Acabador was the first one, and then we just released the Deceiver last week. That was the last, sort of to top off the EP. And yeah, so this is our newest material. We just got done playing it for the first time on the road for a few shows, and we're excited about the material.
So how did you guys decide to put like this batch of songs together? You said it was a little bit more serious and somebody tried to.
Yeah, this is I think this is our best material, and it's the most thought we've ever put into to songs. So uh back in the day, I'll keep saying, 2005, 2006, when we were writing a lot, there just wasn't the technology that there is today. And so that was just us getting together at the jam space, hanging out, no responsibilities back then, no wives or kids, and we would just dick around and freestyle and keep what sounded good. And we just spend a lot of time there, and that's sort of how songs would form. Or I would come in with an idea, our drummer would shape it a little bit, and then we'd end up with something, and we would just be consistently writing songs because we were consistently practicing because we didn't have anything better to do. And so, time would go by and we just suddenly have like 8 new songs or something, and we would just be slowly adding them to our live set as we knew them. There was no like writing it and saving it and then releasing it. It was like if we had written a new song between that show and our next show, like we played it at the next show.
Okay.
That's just how it went. And so, and there was no like scheduled releases and big planned things of like releasing on this date. And it was just like, oh no, we've been playing our new material for 6 months now. We're just finally going to record it and like just release it in the background, for
Right.
people to
Here
see.
you go, by the way.
Yeah, here's that new shit we've been playing, here it is. And so that's how we used to write. It was very like, oh, that sounds good, let's just do it. Let's do this next. That's unpredictable. Let's do that. And so now moving forward, last year we did a 7-song EP that we wrote fairly quickly. We just hadn't had new material in a long time, and I wanted to get something out there. And so we wrote that, and immediately after releasing it was good. Like, I'm proud of it, but I was just like, I think we can do better than this. I think this isn't quite what I envision our sound and style to be. And so I just got like right back to work, and it took a while to write these 4 songs. They actually didn't take too long. they were all done and recorded by the end of last year. It just took until last week, our release schedule and planning and everything.
Mhm.
But yeah, these are the first ones where I sort of, with the technology these days, I can sit down by myself and with a recording program and a drum program, and I can write like the entire song and just
Yeah.
and then just send it to the guys and be like, look, this is what I want. And then of course they can be like, well, can I think it would sound cool if you change this part, or if I'm drumming, like I might just, when we start jamming, he's like, maybe he'll change the drums just slightly.
Mm.
But yeah, it's the first time I actually sat down and like pieced together these songs consciously and really just like put a lot of thought into it. And so and then using the technology to do it, which is crazy. The stuff you
Yeah.
can do is crazy these days. So even with our live show, like the guitar rig setup I have and the way it does everything by itself is nuts. So
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm excited. We're excited to release these, and honestly, I can't. I want to start getting back to writing again, like this month, and maybe just go for a full length album right out the gate. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think was like the tipping point or the evolution point that made you decide to, like you said, you kind of just weren't happy with this with the quickness of the other one. So where did that kind of feeling come from?
I think that the genre and the bands in our genre have really progressed since back in the day. I mean, you can listen to some of the older music from 2005, 2006. Some of it's really awesome still. But then if you compare it to what's being released right now, it's gotten a lot more, I don't know, for lack of a better term, technical, and
Mm.
a lot it's just different. There's a lot that sets like a professional band apart from like a local band back in the day. Back in the day, I think you could write more freely and like not worry about making it sound intricate or
Mm.
impressive, because it was all newer back then.
Yeah,
Now in order to get like a new sound, you have to really think about what you're doing, because it's probably been done before. So that's sort of listening to more of the progression of other bands around us, and I'm a fan of the music, so I'm always listening to new bands and bands and new material and stuff, and seeing how they're sort of stepping it up caused me to be like, all right, I think we need to step it up too a little bit, put a little more thought into what we want our sound to be, and how we write these songs.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. You gotta, if people are growing around you and you're not growing, then kind of what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some songs back in the day that I just loved, and now I listen to them like, wow, I mean, that
Yeah.
was good for back then, but it's not that great anymore.
Yeah, I feel that same way sometimes. Like you put a song on Spotify and you're like, man, I used to listen to this back then, and why the hell did I listen to it?
Yeah.
Like the things just change so drastically sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
So as a band, what are some of the good and bad dynamics that you guys go through?
Um, you know, we haven't experienced too much bad. We've been on a couple hiatuses. The first time was like nothing serious, but just a disagreement of the amount we wanted to be out there touring and stuff. So
Yeah.
back in 2006, 7, 8, around then, we would go out for a few weeks every 2 months or something like that. So we'd be East Coast for a few weeks and we come home. Then 2 months later, we'd Midwest to West Coast for a few weeks. Then we'd come back home. Then 2 months later, we go out again. And um, our old bass player at the time just really, he sort of wanted to like live on the road. He just wanted to tour for 4 months at a time, and whatever. And some of us just weren't ready to commit to that yet. And I think we were feeling a little bit of burnout with that. And so him at the time and our drummer moved away and joined forces with a couple other dudes and tried to do that with the band. Like we were cool about it. We're like, yeah, go ahead, take the name. Like my brother and I will just like take a break, and maybe
Mhm.
we'll start another project of our own. but they went, and of course it didn't work out. Like I was the one writing all the music, and you can't really mimic someone else's writing style that well. And
Yeah.
those people ended up being like way not reliable at all as far as playing live gigs and things like that. And so it just sort of fell apart, and that created like the first hiatus. There's a falling out between that bass player and our drummer at the time, and eventually our drummer moved back up to where we're at in Colorado, and we sort of started up things again. We released an album. We didn't really tour. We might have done like a couple weekenders or something. But then we all had kids and wives.
Mhm. That changes a lot for sure.
Yeah, that sort of triggered like another hiatus. And then more recently, yeah, we were like, we missed it, and the kids are a little older now, and we can find the time, and we have more money now for equipment, and it's like let's throw it back together again, see what we can do. And now with the technology, like I was just explaining, the ability to write it is almost just a fun activity in itself, whether you end up touring or not. It's like fun to just sit there and create music, and since we have this outlet in this band, might as well just direct it into that and keep releasing it.
Yeah, for sure. And the nice thing now is your music can get everywhere instantly. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to stress about trying to make sure you get all these fans in all these small cities where you can just start throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, it's true. So that was really the only negative thing, was sort of that first hiatus. I think had that not happened and we just kept steady on our going out a few weeks every couple months, uh, we I mean we probably would have been a lot more successful up to this day. Not that I'm not going to say that being in a band even of the greatest caliber in our genre really is a huge moneymaker, but
Yeah.
but we probably could have the option to be touring all the time on these big tours and blah blah blah. I just if we had never given up, we were playing with bands like Through the Eyes of the Dead and Tony Danza Tap Dance and See You Next Tuesday and Veil of Maya and After the Burial, and we were playing with these bands just like almost at the same level they were at, and then we took these hiatuses and blah blah blah. And now you can some of those names are huge now, so um
Getting into Veil of the Maya, I think up here in Canada when they did something up here was next to impossible, apparently.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's crazy, man. So, but yeah, the positives. I mean, the positive has just been uh that we're all friends. My obviously my brother and I get to do something together.
Mhm.
And then our drummer we've been friends with ever since middle school, and we get to hang out doing that, and then just having fun playing shows. Back in the especially with a name like ours, if you're not familiar with us and we show up to play a show for you, it's a pleasant surprise. We get a lot of what the fuck and a lot of
Yeah.
like cool reactions, always in the positive, and then we end up selling like a ton of merch, and it's always good.
Yeah, that's always a bonus, and it's always fun. So one of the main things I do outside of this is like actually cover live shows photography wise and kind of review them. So whenever you're watching the crowd's first reaction to someone they might not know, it's so cool to see that like that oh shit moment
Yeah.
and then watch just them go nuts for it after.
Yeah, that was sort of a staple for us. That drove us back in the day when really no one knew who we were, and we'd show up on tour in these new cities we'd never played in, and they'd be kind enough to put us like third out of five, or second out of four bands, put us in the middle somewhere so that the locals were surrounding us, and yeah, we'd be loading in, and you just get these looks like Poolside Flamingo, like what the fuck,
Yeah.
and you just get up there and straight rip it, and they're just like, what the fuck? And it's like, just take my money, give me your shirt.
Yeah. It, that whole new love of the music again.
Yeah. So that was always fun. And we still get a little bit of that to this day. What was nice actually is these last run of shows we just did, we had a fair amount of people showing up that they're specifically just to see us, because we didn't take a band with us or anything. We just went out ourselves, and
Mhm.
a lot of merch sold, a lot of like friendly faces, and even people that used to watch us back in the day. So it was a cool experience.
Nice. Yeah, that's gotta be fun.
You know.
So in every one of my interviews, I like to go through a few fun questions near the back half to pick your brain a little bit more and see what makes you tick. And I think The first one is probably my favorite, and it's gonna make you think the most is what's one thing you think should be asked more in an interview that's not asked enough?
Hmm. That's a tough one. Gosh. Yeah, we've been doing a few of these, and I'm not sure if there's been a question where I'm like, why didn't they ask me that?
Well, I
Um,
like to also position it too. Like if you were watching an interview with someone that you want to know more about,
yeah.
what might you want to hear from them?
Yeah. That's now like me or just the band in general, like as a project.
Well, I mean, you could either really, whatever works,
Yeah. I
whatever comes.
think in this specific instance, when you're interviewing like a band, if I was watching it, I'd sort of want to know what they're listening to or what they're into, you know. I've got that question a couple times, and it just gives us the opportunity to like give a shout out to some of our friends who might deserve it, you know. Um,
That's quite
and
literally my next question, anyways.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let me jump to
yeah.
it.
Well, so I call this one like the who you're listening to question, or someone you're listening to people might not expect.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a good one. I like that second part of it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, who we listen to a lot at the moment, and me specifically. There's your regulars, like I love Knock Loose, his new release that just came out, like everyone does, because they're charting higher than Taylor Swift. But
Yeah,
um, as far as yeah, when I just turned something on, I like Distant. They're a band from Europe that's doing some good things. Our friends, uh, they're from Colorado. They're good friends of ours. Crown Magnetar is blowing up. They were been on a lot of big tours lately. Listened to a lot of like Body Snatcher and
yeah.
um, I like me personally, I like just like really chuggy deathcore, but also some of that tough guy hardcore stuff. Like Body Snatcher has a good mixture of that.
Hmm.
Um, Listening to a lot of End is another band. End, they're made up of some members from like Fit for an Autopsy and stuff. So
Okay.
they got some really good stuff going. Then unexpectedly, I myself listen to a lot of crooner music, like Frank Sinatra,
Okay.
Dean Martin,
Mhm.
like a lot of it. That's a go-to a lot when I'm driving around. Also, it's probably because I like to sip scotch and smoke cigars.
Just kind of have that relaxed kind of
Yeah, and you
minute.
just put that on while you're doing that, and you just feel classy, you know, and it feels good. There's another side of me, like I own a couple like really nice. I like to buy nice suits and wear them out. My wife loves fancy dinners, and
Hmm.
so we'll do shit like that too, you
Yeah,
know.
that's fun.
Yeah, and my brother and I and my parents actually own a dinner theater in the hometown that we're from.
Oh wow. Okay.
So they'll do like musicals, and they'll feed you dinner and serve drinks. And that's where we worked growing up, like building sets and waiting tables. And we used to clear out all the tables and chairs and throw metal shows there
Yeah.
back in the day.
I mean, you pretty much
But
have to if there's a space for it. So
yeah, you got to move in a PA and do it there. Those were some of the best shows we've ever had, actually. Just when we were in high school, just flooding the high school with flyers and hundreds of kids, like 300 kids showing up. So that didn't even half of them didn't even like metal. They're just they're just
they're
there.
going out
And
for
there's
something.
yeah, they're still moshing too. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
heck yeah. But so my brother and I come from like this traditional music background. My mom's a voice and piano teacher, and um you know, we've been mixed up in that. So we have a lot of other like weird interests that don't always align with someone that's in a deathcore band.
Mhm. I mean, I love some of those old school guys. One of my favorite shows I've ever been to was Frankie Valli a couple years ago.
Ah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and man, that guy still at whatever he's something like 80 something now, and he still those pipes still work the exact same way.
That's nuts, man. Yeah, he's that's crazy. We saw the musical after his what life, Jersey Boys or whatever, when we were in Vegas, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just nuts. It's crazy. 80 years old.
Yeah, and he now mind you, he's doing a little two-step on stage. He can't really do too much, but like
Yeah.
just the I brought my wife out for that and just watching that was kind of one of those wow moments for me. And you look at me, I don't look like I'm listening to Frankie Valli that often.
No. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
no,
fun for sure.
for sure. Well,
Now, next question. This one's a fun one. Who plays each of you guys in the movie of your life?
ooh. Oh god, let's see here. So our drummer looks exactly like Ice Cube, so it'd have to be Ice Cube.
Yeah, I think that'd be actually really fun with him too.
Yeah, everyone calls him like the metal Ice Cube. Like it's just hilarious how much he looks like Ice Cube.
Mm.
Uh, my brother, and I'm going off of like looks here. My brother gets shit for looking like Johnny Sins, like the old porn star.
Okay. Yeah.
So everyone's always like, we'll release a video and they're like, I didn't know Johnny Sins did deathcore and like all this shit.
Hmm.
So yeah, there you go. Johnny Sins, play my brother. Our bass player, David, I don't know. He's, it's like a smaller dark Italian guy. I don't know who would be good to play him. Maybe like a young Michael Jackson.
I mean, that could be fun too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I've been told that via mannerisms I've been told that I act like Nicolas Cage, but I look like Dax Shepard. So, I'd rather be played by Nicolas Cage
Yeah, I think
because he's nuts.
how he does things in movies and things like that is insane. I think that'd be
He-
fun.
He's amazing. It's like he does everything that he's sent, but he still does 2 award-winning movies a year. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he's not a has-been, even though he does has-been movies, because then he just does like award-winning movies too every year. It's just nuts. There's no one like him.
And I swear to God, you see every time you turn on like something, you see a new movie that he's done, and you have no idea that it's there. It's all of a
Yeah.
sudden him in a movie again.
It's just there when you're browsing. You're like, oh shit, Nicolas Cage is in something else.
Actually, my wife and I don't even remember what it was. We watched something a couple days ago that had him in it, and we didn't even see him in the title of it at first.
Really?
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, he's a secondary in here.
He just pops in.
Yeah, old Nicolas Cage.
That's
Um,
hilarious.
next one, what's your like go-to after show food?
Well, there's not always the best options, I'll
Oh,
tell you, when you're
yeah,
on the
that's
road.
hard ones. I'm imagining.
Yeah, we were just down in Texas last week, and we don't have any Whataburgers up here in Denver and Colorado. So we took advantage of that a couple nights. That was definitely a go-to. But I will say, if you look at us as a band, besides our drummer, although he's like on a health kick now, um, my brother and I and our bass player are like, we could just be nutritionists or something, because
Yeah,
we're just sort of in shape, and we'll like talk about dieting plans and shake recipes and shit. And so,
mm,
so, but we like to splurge after a show sometimes. So, maybe a little Whataburger. The top, if I'm gonna get fast food, is the top for me is going to be Wendy's.
yeah. And there's always a good choice at Wendy's for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
It sucks we don't get up here in Canada like any of the Whataburgers or anything like that, really. So I don't get that opportunity.
yeah. Well, it's probably better for you that you don't.
Well, I mean, I'm a big boy. I'm used to eating all that garbage anyways. So, all right, couple more
Nice.
questions before we finish off here, and this one's an important one is what do you hope people take away from your music?
I hope that they take away, like, first of all, that it's really heavy and they can really, I don't know if there's a word for it, but if you listen to deathcore and you hear that breakdown or you hear that part and you're just like, oh, like, those are the kind of reactions and feelings we want to put into people. But
Mhm.
then at the same time, we want them to know that we're not taking ourselves too seriously. Like, we're not going to show up and be like, fuck this and fuck that and
Yeah,
evil, and it's just like, no, we're just out here to have fun. But you can get violent in the pit if you want.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you have fun, but you can play something hard and fast and
Yeah,
get
yeah.
excited with it, release a little bit.
And we pride ourselves on being somewhat unpredictable too in our music. So hopefully they take away some of those like satisfying moments, but then also at any point in the song, or at least at one point in the song, they didn't know what was coming next. They were surprised.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good thing to take away for sure. Last question: what motivates you guys to keep going on?
I think that's tough because, yeah, we have families and wives who think it's pretty dumb.
I mean, my
Spe-
wife literally thinks it's dumb that I do some of this stuff too, so I'm
yeah,
there with you.
especially when we're gone for a few days at a time and having to FaceTime the kids and things like that. It's like, why the fuck, you know? And sometimes we have those questions too. We're like, you don't make a ton of money. Like we all just make more money when just normally at home, you know,
Mm,
why, but really, I think it's the desire to create just good music. And since we feel like we are bringing a unique mix to the genre, it's a desire to like put more of that out there and just you know, let it be heard and get those satisfying reactions from people.
mhm.
That's what does it for me anyways. It's like could hang it up, but then sure enough a time will come where I'm like, oh, I have like a riff in my head and I bet I could, oh, then the drums could go like this, and I'm like, oh, I gotta write this down real quick.
Yeah,
And then that turns into like I gotta release this somewhere for people to hear, you know.
mhm.
So I think it's just the music itself. And then certainly some of those experiences playing live shows. I mean, we all have such a fun time playing live shows. And so it's a combination of those two things.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like fun. I wish I kept up with music. Like, I used to play drums once upon a time, and then, stuff happens and life happens,
Sure.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
literally
And I,
interviews like this started with COVID, so
yeah, yeah, that's true. And I'm not the first, like I don't keep up with music that well. Like unless I'm playing our songs or writing our songs,
mm,
I'm not the type of guy that just like sits down to play guitar, you know, to just like jam out and sit there for 2 hours just playing. Like if
yeah.
I sit down, it's because I'm writing something or because I'm practicing something that I wrote. And so it's more about, yeah, the music than it is playing guitar for me. And maybe that's a bad thing to admit because some people are pure like instrument enthusiasts. Like, I just got to play guitar. I just got to sit down and play. I don't care if I'm playing someone else's material. I don't care if,
Mm.
you know, they just like to play. And I'm like, no, I like to write and play my music, you
Yeah,
know?
you need a purpose almost to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the fun stuff I have written down here. Is there any final words of wisdom you wanna leave to people?
I, I don't think so. It's a whole different landscape out there for bands. So I don't even know where you start these days.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
you,
all over, so
yeah, if you have a lot of money, then you don't really have to go travel as much because I guess you could just promote the hell out of it on social media. But if you don't, it's like and you want some good times, just get out there and start touring as much and as fast as you can, especially if you don't have any responsibilities, because it's the fun times.
yeah, for sure. I wish I could do I get to travel for some festivals. That's about it. I
Hmm.
cover some festivals around the area, so that's where I get to go out and have that fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good time. There's nothing like it. Just getting in a van with your buddies and you know and we're older now and like we're side sleepers and I'm like I gotta have a hotel room and
Yeah.
so when we go out now we just know we're gonna get a hotel room every night and we're gonna you know back in the day we toured a lot and it was just at the show literally like you're on stage and you just come up to us and let us know if we can crash at your house you know
Yeah.
and we met so many cool people that way, and we slept in a lot of shit ass houses.
Mm.
But it was an experience I'll never forget for sure.
Well, it sounds like it's been a good one so far.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a fun time for sure.
Well, man, it was great getting to chat with you and kinda pick your brain and learn more about just how you and the band work. It's sounds like a fun time for sure.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on.
For sure. Where can people find you guys on social media?
Just everywhere at Poolside at the Flamingo. You can go to poolsideattheflamingo.com. We're basically we run ourselves. We do have our latest EP is distributed by Blood Blast Distribution. So they help us out a little there. But as far as anything physical or any of our prior releases and all of our merch and everything is we just do it ourselves. And so if you want to support, just go to poolsideattheflamingo.com and that's where everything is at for us.
We'll make sure we link that in the description here. I'll just write that
Yeah.
down.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, let's end this and yeah,
Well,
stay in
sounds
touch.
good. Thanks.